The movie opens in the present with Shoya quitting his job, selling his belongings, and clearing out his bank account to pay back what he owes his mom. In the past, Shoko is on her first day of school, introducing herself to the class. She uses a notebook to clarify that she is deaf and tells the class that she can use it whenever they want to communicate with her. The girls in the class introduce themselves to Shoko and asks if she has a nickname that they can call her by. Shoko writes Sho, and the girls realize that there is another Sho in the class, as this is also Shoya's nickname. During music class, Shoko starts singing too early, and one of the girls signs to her, indicating that she should watch the movement of her lips before starting. The others whisper in the back, expressing concern that the new girl will ruin their chances of winning their choir contest that year. Naoka is called upon to read, but the teacher comments on how slowly she's reading and tells her to sit down. Then the teacher asks Shoko to stand up and read, and Shoko makes a series of indescribable sounds that almost resemble words. In an attempt to make Naoka feel better, when Shoya is called upon next, he mocks Shoko's reading. The teacher scolds him for his words and makes him sit down, and after the incident, Naoka and her friends begin to ostracize Shoko, avoiding her whenever she approaches. Shoya finds Shoko in the playground and tells her that he and the other kids in class are tired of her and her notebook. Shoko tries to sign that she wants to be friends, but not understanding her, Shoya throws a handful of dust in her face and walks away. The next day, a teacher named Kira from the class for the deaf arrives and teaches the class sign language. She explains that in order to facilitate communication with Shoko, they will spend 3 minutes every day before class learning to sign. Naoka then asks the teacher why they can't just write it on Shoko's notebook instead, and the teacher notes that it would be easier for Shoko that way. Miyoka, one of the students, raises her hand and expresses her willingness to learn sign language. She becomes friends with Shoko despite the continued insults from Naoka and her friends toward anyone who gets close to Shoko. One day, Shoko walks into class to find a rude comment written about her by Shoya, and Shoya cleans the blackboard and pretends that it wasn't him. We then see Shoko thanking him for cleaning it up. The next day, Naoka notices hearing aids in Shoko's ears and asks if it means she can hear now. Shoya also sees them, then asks Naoka to hand them to him. He then makes derogatory comments about them being disgusting earwax and callously throws the hearing aids away. Day after day, the bullying continues until Shoya finds himself in trouble with the principal. His friends betray him, framing him as the sole perpetrator when Soko's mother reports the bullying. Upon returning home, Shoya's mother informs him that they will go to apologize to Shoko. She withdraws money from her account and compensates Shoko's mother for the loss of the hearing aids. When Shoya confronts Shoko to apologize, he ends up blaming her instead, leading to a physical altercation between them. The following day, the teacher announces that Shoko has transferred to another school. In the present, Shoya attends a sign language class and unexpectedly encounters Shoko. He retrieves the notebook he'd previously discarded and signs to inform her that she had left it behind. Curious, Shoko asks how Shoya learned sign language, and he reveals that he's been taking classes. He attempts to make amends by signing if they can be friends, realizing that this was all she wanted when she was younger. Shoya's little niece Maria interrupts their conversation, calling him to have breakfast. His mother, Miyako, smiles and expresses gratitude for his efforts to repay her. Suddenly, Miyako asks Shoya why he's thinking about unaliving himself. He explains that a lot had happened recently, and in a desperate plea, she holds a torch to the money that he had saved, threatening to burn it all if he doesn't promise to abandon his plans to self-delete. Shoya promises his mother that he won't take his own life, but the money accidentally gets burnt anyways. As Shoya leaves the house, he reflects on how his reputation as a bully has haunted him throughout middle school, leading to his isolation after his friends betrayed him. One day on his way to class, Shoya witnesses a student bullying Tomohiro, pretending to borrow his bike. Shoya intervenes and offers his own bike instead. Wait, hold on. Did you subscribe to our channel? Come on guys, you're here, you're watching the video, help us out by hitting the subscribe button, as it really helps out me and my team to make more videos for you guys. And now, let's get back to the recap. After class, Shoya is unsurprised to find out that the guy never returned the bike. Contemplating whether he should visit Shoko as he planned, Shoya ponders if losing his bike was a sign not to go. However, he discovers a coupon for a half-off bread and remembers Shoko mentioning that she feeds Dekoi near her school every Tuesday. Encouraged, he heads toward the learning center. Upon arriving at school, Shoya encounters Shoko's younger sister, Yuzuru, who turns him away claiming that Shoko wasn't there despite him seeing her in class. On his way back home, Shoya runs into Tomohiro, who managed to locate Shoya's bike after the the thief abandoned it. To Tomohiro's surprise, Shoya asks for his name, and Tomohiro mentions that he actually sits behind Shoya in class. Shoya shares the bread with Tomohiro, and from that moment on, the two become friends. One day, Tomohiro asks what's troubling Shoya, now referring to him by his nickname Yasho. Shoya questions what it truly means to be friends, and whether specific qualifications are necessary. Tomohiro states that friendship has nothing to do with qualifications or logic, but instead is about the bond that you share. The next day, Shoya goes to see Shoko at school. However, he's refused entrance again by Yuzuru, and unexpectedly, Tomohiro appears out of nowhere and gets into a physical altercation with her, insisting that she lets his friends see Shoko. The noise created by the two attracts the attention of students in the sign language class, and Shoko notices Shoya trying to break up the fight. Shoya runs away, but she follows him and manages to catch up. Yuzuru and Tomohiro observe the two talking from a distance. Yuzuru uses a camera she always hangs around her neck to spy on them and intercept their sign language conversation for Tomohiro. Shoya tells Shoko that he wasn't sure if he should come that day, admitting that he was looking for a good enough reason to see her. The two then feed the fish together, and Shoko brings out the notebook. But Shoya is too embarrassed to watch her go through it in front of him, and unfortunately, the notebook accidentally falls into the pond when he tries to take it away from her hand. Shoko jumps into the pond to retrieve the notebook, and Shoya jumps in after her, successfully retrieving it. Yuzuru posts the photos that she took of Shoya jumping into the pond and shares them online. The photo circulates around the school, and as a result, Shoya gets suspended for 3 weeks for failing to follow the student's code of conduct. The next day, Shoya's sister asks him to pick up Maria from school, and he reluctantly agrees, noting that he's not supposed to leave his house during the suspension. When he goes to pick up his little niece at her school, he finds Yuzuru sleeping in the playground. Shoya learns that Yuzuru had run out of the house and takes her back home with Maria. Yuzuru asks Shoya if he's not mad at her, but he insists that he understands her actions and why she did it. Yuzuru sneaks out of the house in the rain, and Shoya follows after her. Yuzuru tells him that she's not buying his act and expresses her lack of trust in him. On the way back home, they run into her mom, who slaps Shoya and tells Yuzuru to stay away from him. The next day, Yuzuru goes back to return the umbrella, and the two eventually reconcile. The following day, he goes to see Shoko with Tomohiro and Yuzuru. Shoko mentions Miyoko from grade school, the only girl who was nice to her back then. The next day, Shoya manages to track down where Miyoko goes to school now and finds out that she attends the same school as Naoka. Then the group books a train and travels to see Miyoko. On their way, Shoko thanks him for finding Miyoko and tells him that Yuzuru has been talking to her about him a lot. On their way out of the train station, they run into Miyoko and the two catch up, and she apologizes to Shoko for disappearing back then, expressing that she never stopped thinking about her. Shoya then decides to give the two some alone time and leaves. On his way back, he notices Naoko on the street. She seemingly doesn't recognize him and hands him a discount coupon for a club that she works at. The next day, he goes to the club with Tomohiro, and Naoka realizes who he is when he steps into the club and hides from him. A few days later, Naoka randomly jumps onto the back of Shoya's bike and tries to make amends, downplaying everything that had happened between them in grade school. But Shoya just tells her to get off and leaves. Naoka notices that he was going to see Shoko and runs past him, teasing Shoko. She takes out her hearing aid, but Shoya tells her to give it back, and Naoka then makes fun of Shoya for being friends with the girl that he used to bully before she leaves. The following day, as Shoya heads to the bakery to pick up some bread for the koi, he unexpectedly bumps into Shoko. To his surprise, she hands him a gift and attempts to strike up a conversation, and amidst their interaction, she expresses her affection for him, but her words are somewhat muffled, making it very difficult for him to grasp what she was saying clearly. She makes her declaration of love to him as a declaration of love for the moon. Later, Shoya recounts what happened with Shoko to Yuzuru and asks her if she's avoiding him. Yuzuru tells him that he should ask her out to find out what she really feels about him, and Shoya invites Shoko to hang out with him and his other friends at the amusement park. To his surprise, Naoka shows up as well, and Shoya asks Miyoko if things between her and Naoka are okay since they go to the same school. Miyoko tells him that everything is fine between them, and Shoya settles down, thinking that Naoka had no other intentions. Throughout the day, Shoya has fun with his friends and Shoko, and he questions whether he even deserves to have so much fun, beating himself up for the past, but also feeling thankful for the friends that he has now. Naoka blames Shoko for the rift created between her and her friends, and asks if Shoya hates her. When he tells her that he does, she runs into Shoko and invites her to ride the Ferris wheel with her, and she tells Shoko everything she feels about her and Yuzuru, and manages to record everything. Yuzuru shows the video to Shoya, and the incident leads to the group having a fallout when Miki exposes Shoya's past to the others in desperation to remain blameless in Shoko's bullying, while Shoya isolates himself from everyone except for the Nishimiya sisters. After Shoko and Yuzuru's grandmother passes away, Shoya takes the sisters to the countryside to cheer them up, and when he realizes that Shoko blames herself for everything that happened to him, Shoya decides to devote his entire social life to the sisters, spending the entire summer with them. One day, while the three were having lunch, Shoko invites them to come up to their house and help the sisters bake a cake for their mother. Their mother, who wasn't so keen on Shoya, sees him and asks why he's there, but the sisters manage to mend the perception she has of Shoya, and they all enjoy the birthday together. During a fireworks festival, Shoko and Shoya talk about celebrating her birthday next year together, as they've already missed it this year. A few minutes later, after the first round of fireworks, Shoko leaves early, seemingly to finish her homework. Shoya follows her when he learns that Yuzuru had forgotten her camera. While retrieving the camera, he sees Shoko preparing to jump from the balcony, and Shoya runs and manages to stop her, only to fall into a river below himself. Shoya is rescued by his former friends, but he still loses consciousness. In the hospital, Shoko's mother apologizes for what happened to Shoya and his mom, and outside the hospital, Naoka beats up Shoko, blaming her for putting him in a coma. But Shoko's mom and Miyako break up the fight. Realizing what she almost tried to do to Shoya, Shoko goes around making amends to everyone she might have hurt, including Naoka. One night, Shoko has a dream about receiving a farewell visit from Shoya, and when Shoya awakens from his coma, he makes his way to the bridge where he used to feed the fish and finds Shoko weeping. He apologizes for bullying her and urges her not to blame herself for the way his life has turned out. Shoya also confesses that he initially planned to take his own life, but has changed his mind, asking Shoko to help him find a reason to keep on living. And Shoko agrees to this wholeheartedly. When Shoya returns to school, he reunites with his friends and realizes how much they still care about him, and as they all attend the school festival together, Shoya becomes emotional and tears up, finally understanding that he has redeemed himself by no longer ignoring the people around him. And that is how the movie comes to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed the recap. Make sure to leave me a like, leave a comment, also subscribe to my channel. I love you guys so much, and I promise to see you on my next recap. Bye!